Well, the voice of Daniel Mongeat introducing all and sundry, and a great team has been sent here by Little Trek. It is, of course, the Étoile Bessèges. It's not one of the oldest races on the calendar, but has rapidly become an early season prep for the great and the good, and some new livery for you to contest with as well. Gone is the brown of AG2R. Well, a little bit just in terms of the livery. And they're here with Benoit Cosnefroy, who is making a season debut. As far as Arkea are concerned, Arkea B&B, Kevin Vacquelin starts off as one of the out-and-out favourites for the race. Strongest team, well, the winners last time we came here, indeed defending champion not, I'm afraid, in presence, but Albert Bettiol certainly is. And EF Education have got Stefan Bissiger, Narurka, Ben Healy, Simon Carr, Sean Quinn. When you hear that, you realise what a roster we have and indeed how important this race is. So trimmed this year then to 4 stages with a time trial at the end. We're straight into the tough stuff because Roussan today has a very nasty ramp at the end of it. We're talking percentages in the last 600 or 700 metres of 12, 13, possibly nudging 14% in some of the corners. The wind is also blowing. It's a bit of a headwind. So as a result, it could be that we get an unexpected surprise today. Let's wait and see. Here's your map. This is how we started, and I can tell you we're already underway with a 3-rider breakaway that's been making a use of itself from pretty early doors. Some big climbs along the way to contend with. The Baraque is the first of the Category 1 tests of this race. The Mel Pertus, and of course that Plateau de Castellas, which is at the end. We only take that once, although it is a circuit. There's a little cutaway road that will take us up to that finale. So they'll get a sense of the environ, and that's what we're dealing with at the moment. 163.5 kilometres in total. Altitude gain today, just over 2,100 metres. So a great introduction, I think you might say, for those who are opening their account with this race, and some great names are doing precisely that. Now, it says southwesterly blowing 10 kilometres per hour, so that's a wind change, if indeed that is correct. So let's wait and see if it does turn out to be a headwind at the end. Here's your breakaway. 3 brave souls going off up the road with 83.6 kilometres to go. Their gap been trimmed down to 2 minutes and 44. It was up there around the 4.5 minutes mark at one point. But now just another 3 minutes and still make a good fist of it. That's Jean-Louis Leny, who we've just seen go out of picture. We have Nantes Atlantique are also here with the darker blue and the orange sleeve, which you're just about getting a view of now. That is Mathis Julien, and they're joined by Max Jouillard, who is of Van Rysel-Roubaix in the sort of dark pink fuchsia, shall we call it. As you can see, the chase invoked at the moment, and someone wanted to make a big noise early on. Decathlon AG2R La Mondiale. So a blue and white with, yes, brown lettering in homage to AG2R, however you want to say it. Benoit Cosnefroy, one of the big favourites for the race. Runner-up in the Grand Prix of Marseille was Alex Baudin as well. He's here. Aurélien Berry-Peintre will make a nuisance of himself. But the nature of the race has kind of changed just a little bit, because yesterday, where some of the fast men with a nasty peak at the end, a little bit of an ice hockey stick of a stage finish yesterday, all of a sudden they've come into this, and the rude awakening is this run to Roussan. It's fabulous terrain. Talking about fabulous, of course, is an easy thing to do, especially when you have someone like Brian Smith on hand. Brian, opening our account together for this great race. Love the Étoile Bessèges. It's always lumpy, always interesting, and more than that, very unpredictable, a bit like yourself.
Yes, indeed. Fabulous. We have been racing for what, 3 weeks now? This is the traditional season opener, the first staged race in France at the start of the year. Used to be a bit of a kind of training race, so you'd ride Grand Prix Marseille at the weekend and then come to this race, so it can open up the French season. But now, as we know, cycling has changed. It's almost 12 months of the year, and a lot of these teams and riders come here to race, and they're a lot fitter than they were in the past. But the thing about this one, Carlton, is Some road, as you suggested, the Grand Prix Marseille at the weekend, which was a great race, good finish. But there's a lot of riders in here that this is their first race of the season, including a rider that's done well here in the past, riding for Lidl Trek, Mads Pedersen. If you can look at the Palmares, these are the type of riders that suit this sort of terrain.
Nielsen Paulus not here this time by. Benjamin Thomas is. Tim Wellens, Benoit Cosnefroy is here. Christophe Laporte. You see the sort of riders who have been busy winning on this sort of terrain, and they're pretty handy. Good all-rounders, strong men, and as Brian said, the season used to dissipate. In fact, it used to close down for around about 3 months for the winter. No longer. With international communications and indeed some new areas of cycling which are opening up. Notably, the Middle East has been a big temptation. In fact, it's very much a large part of the calendar right now. We've got Saudi racing in Saudi at the moment with the Alula, and of course we will be heading off naturally to Oman. And then, of course, the UAE Tour itself. And so it's a whole area that, quite frankly, is now developing into summer racing in the winter. So there's basically no downtime. It does bring on the youngsters very well. It can extend a career or two. I guess the temptation of a fried chicken bucket has been parked up. But nonetheless, you can always find some racing. And so Europe just dissipated a little bit in terms of popularity. Spain had kind of picked up. We started to think about North Africa and the Arab countries, as we've just said. But I think the pendulum's swinging back. This race has always been bedeviled by bad weather, Brian. We're blessed with good weather, and for that we will take our present, I think.
Definitely, it's a lovely part of the world, south of France here, and I can remember coming over here for the first time to ride for ACBB in Paris, and we came down not to this side, but we went over the kind of Biarritz side, Bayonne, and had our kind of training camp there. Of course, as most people know, in February time, you do get a little bit of snow, but in general it was quite dry, quite warm, and you can see 14 degrees Celsius, they're telling us, and it looks rather pleasant. Whether this finish will be pleasant for many riders, we'll have to wait and see, because in 2022, Carlton, there's about 4 riders came to the line. Right. Brian Cocard just edged out Mads Pedersen, so Mads Pedersen loved the stage yesterday, which was cancelled. You've covered that already. So potentially, how is Mads Pedersen? What's his form like? Because last year I can remember watching this race, and I think a couple of years ago as well, he prevailed. He rode rather well. So a punchy finish to this stage yet to come, but going to have to wait almost 80 kilometres.
Well, there's no doubt that Mads Pedersen starts as one of the early favourites for this. Benoit Cosnefroy as well. We were discussing the fact that the wind may have a moderating effect on some chances of a few riders here today. You're going to have to be quite big and powerful. None more big or powerful in the past than Alexander Kristoff, and you can see him doing a little bit of pacing here for Uno X Mobility. They've gone more red than they have, so more blood than custard, I think it's fair to say. Riding the centre of the road. EF Education as well, coming here with an extraordinarily strong team. And Bettiol is one of those riders, I never quite know whether he's going to be on or off. He should love this final, and he was actually, of those you mentioned, Brian, there was 4 up the road. I think Bettiol was 5th that day as well. I think anyone who's in the top 10, they found themselves with a bit of a gap. They all had their chances. There was a little bit of shoulderage going on, and of course with Brian Cocard elbows out and wiggling all over the place, it was quite a dramatic place to be. I'm hoping that we get something similar today in terms of the drama at the end of it. And there's certainly plenty of teams that are working for this. Brian, if this is a preparation race for the rest of the season and really sort of to find where your winter form is, it could be there's a lot of riders want to make an early statement here, because the bidding process opens up early on, doesn't it, for all riders ahead of what is a packed season. But you want the choice rides along the way.
100%, Carlton. These days there's no, because I used to bang on about it, and, have a go at a certain Mr. Kelly and things like that back in the day about, there used to be kind of training races. They've gone. I covered the Challenge Mallorca races. There's very few riders in these races that are here just to kind of ride round, here to do it for training, because as we all know, most of these top riders, pros, they average about 80 days of racing. In the past it used to be over 100, so you used to use some of the races for training and preparation, but nowadays they do it all in training. And that's, you can't kind of keep up where everybody's training these days. There's riders everywhere throughout the world training away, and with the training aids that the riders have got these days, you take away the chances of, or the kind of higher chance, I think, of not crashing. When you put people in races, of course, riders crash in training as well. But yeah, a lot of these teams have come here, and I don't think many of them can afford to just kind of ride round. So I think we're going to be entertained, Carlton, over the next few days. Some of the kind of big guns, the top riders teams will be coming out trying to get a win. Of course, with racing starting already, there's a lot of teams with wins. You're looking, just highlighting EF Education Easy Post team. You mentioned Betio. Well, they've got a very, very strong team here. The Irish champion and Ben Healy, we know what he can do. But also Simon Card, who's already chalked up a win already this season.
Yeah, it's been fantastic for them, to be honest. And they're rich seam, I think. Stefan Bissiger here. Great. Don't forget, we've got an individual time trial in Alice to finish this off. So that, I think, will now have, Brian, possibly a magnified effect on the results. That time trial has become ever more important, hasn't it?
It's the final day, and it's only just over 10 kilometres in length.
That's it, yeah.
A bit of a kind of uphill finish to it, but when you have got like some Bissiger here, and then you've got Mads Pedersen, it doesn't mind a kind of short time trial like that. It kind of opens the door up, and with the bonuses on offer at the top of these finishes, Bissiger, if he wants to win this race, has to compete for these bonuses, has to, because at the top of this finish today, it will be seconds separating pretty much everybody, because looking back at the finish in 2022, there's gaps everywhere, so you can't afford to kind of sit back if you want to win this race overall. So you have to be up there challenging in the top 10 pretty much every day in these finishes. Try and get a time bonus. If you don't, just don't lose any time.
Yeah, Simon Carr won the Trofeo Calvia, by the way, which is what Brian was referring to, just a couple of days ago, and that is that is something coming out of the winter. I know it's a very short one, as we just said, and suddenly getting a win to your name, that can carry you long and far throughout an entire season. And it's a great way to start off. Let's see, there'll be others chomping at the bit that want to do precisely the same. You see Lotto here working hard. They've got Milan Menten. He, for me, is a pretty good bet for today as well, if we have that headwind. I'm beginning to wonder, Brian, whether it's ebbed a little bit. We're talking about 23 kilometres per hour, which would have been a real knockback, and all of a sudden it's down to 10, and it seems it's switched as well. You're Mr. Wind Finder these days. How's the wind blowing for us today?
Yeah, as you say, it looks as if it's ebbed a little bit, but I don't think it'll be a major factor, Carlton. Definitely in today's stage, like from this part of the world, when the wind blows, it can blow. Any time that the Tour de France passes by this region, we see plenty of kind of crosswinds. But I don't think it'll have any disadvantage today. The only disadvantage is to the riders that are in front, only 3. And it's so important, these races, for these kind of small teams. You've got, a team from Nice, Nantes, from Roubaix, throughout, the different regions of France. France is a huge country, of course, and normally in the different regions we get, these professional cycling teams, plenty of them. Unfortunately, we don't have that in the UK these days. Very slim in the ground, but very important for these riders and teams to get themselves noticed, and they're definitely here to race.
Certainly are. Milan Menten, of course, he took a tumble, I think, in the Marseillaise that we've just had, so I'm not quite sure how he will have bounced. He wasn't badly abraded, but there's a little bit of uncertainty hanging over him. But he was up there, I think, as well. He was in that coveted top 10 the last time that we did this climb at the end of today, and it is an absolute brute, as Brian was mentioning. Kicker of 13 and 14%. I guess some of the fast men, some of the strong fast men will try and put as much insurance as they possibly can into the bottom slopes of it, Brian, and then hope to carry the momentum up through the climb itself. But it is a wrestle of the bikes as well as everyone else around you, isn't it?
It's not a huge road, so position is going to be key. Yeah. And I think when you hit steep climb, you don't want to be given 30, 50 metres away to anybody. So it will be kind of ramped up on the approach to the climb, and depending on your condition, you can go pretty much full on the whole way up. It kind of levels the last kind of 100, 150 metres, but it's definitely the pun, a sting in the tail today for everybody, and that's what makes it really, really exciting finish. The fact that we don't know the sort of form some of these riders are on. Cosnefroid as well. This is his first race. Mads Pedersen was already mentioned, but there's a few riders in here we just don't know what sort of form they're in. I can only guess that a lot of these riders have got some good form. Of course, they know from the training aids that they've got what sort of form, what sort of numbers they're already kind of pushing in training, but they don't know what their opposition is doing.
Well, if the wind has changed, it's become a tailwind. That brings in riders such as Kevin Vakala. We'll see how he goes. It's the sort of ramp that he wouldn't have liked, and the knockback would have hurt him. But look at the pace change here. Still holding at 2:43, so the three up the road are doing a good job. But all of a sudden, more helpers to the pump, if you will. This is Axel Laurence's Alpecin de Koenig, who've just come up. He's a possibility for today, as we mentioned. Rob Heiss, Timo Kielich and Ed Plankett, if it was a faster day, they'll have their fun, I think, possibly. Gosh, well, when do you have fun if you're a sprinter in this one? Tomorrow, as we run to Bessèges, there's an awful lot of climbing. We've got 4 Category 1s along the way. Category 2 chucked in there as well, and a few non-categorised climbs that are actually more difficult, to my mind anyway, than that Category 2, the aforementioned. Take it that we've got possibly 10 climbs tomorrow, and then we've got 20 kilometres at the end of it. It depends on how the race goes, whether there's a big investment in a breakaway, whether the chase is a tough one. But we could see some of the fast men have some fun tomorrow. That's about their only chance, because this is lumpy terrain, Brian, and it's a great tester for the teams to, I guess, explore really some of their better cards, but also some of the less familiar riders.
Well, we just saw some pictures there at the front of the peloton, Carlton. It says it all, doesn't it? Because as we see in a lot of the big races, that kind of fight, that acceleration to get good positioning at the front of the peloton before every climb. This is not a huge race. We've already kind of mentioned this was the kind of first stage race of the season for a lot of the kind of French teams. They've got a bit of more of an international flavour now in all races, but the acceleration to get good position, we see it in all the big races, and we're seeing it now. So it's not as if many of these teams and the top riders have come here and go, well, I can just relax, chit chat at the back of the peloton. Every race we cover nowadays, no matter where it is in the world, no matter what time it is, they race it right from the gun. So important. Lotto Destiny over on the right hand side in the reds, Alpecin de Koenig in the dark blue, Decathlon. New rider for them is Dries de Bont in the left hand side, the Belgian. So there's a few riders kind of swapping teams, getting used to the new clothing, equipment and whatnot, but yeah, everybody's here to race, and these 3 guys out front, Julien and Lenny, are sitting at 2.5 minutes. Still a long way to go in this one, but I think most will be sitting and waiting for this final climb. That's where it kind of tends to happen, but there's always that chance that something can happen a little bit earlier, and that's why these riders are always challenged to get to the front.
Very much so. The Col de Baraque is what we're upon. Now, this is a Category 1 climb, so kind of put this thought in your back pocket, really, ahead of tomorrow, because you're going to be seeing a lot more like this. It's pretty narrow, not the narrowest of all that we've seen in the history of cycling, but you get the idea. It's not a bad surface either. Once we come up and over the top of it, just looking at the stage profile, doesn't really give you too much explanation as to how it's going to look on the way back down. You can only imagine it's pretty similar the road that's taking us up here. Steepest section of it comes within the centre of it, so what have we, 72 k's to go. It peaks out with 61, so I'm just doing my maths. We're just coming into the steepest section, which kind of grinds on a little bit. Despite the twists and turns, it's quite regular, so we're 3 and 4% that we've been dealing with. It's just cranking up to around about 6%. It does ebb a little bit within it, and there's a plateau at the top which knocks down the overall percentage of the climb. But the Col de Baraque is what we're dealing with in, thankfully, blessedly, decent weather. Now, we've been up most of the course that we are seeing here in the past, and in fact, they're roads that are familiar to the Tour de France and the like. It's a very popular part of the world to come cycling, and you can kind of understand why. Being minor roads that are well paved, if a little heavy, you're looking at the gravel that we're seeing on the surface here, that's going to knock you back, fatigue you a little bit, but it's all part of the learning process, or indeed the refining process of your form that you're bringing out of what is, as we've said, a very short winter. So we're heading northwest. Category 1 climb, the Col de Baraque. 13.2 kilometres at 3.6% average, but as I said, much of it, and in the bit that counts we're on at the moment, it's about 5.6 to 5.8%, that kind of margin. After 5 kilometres of 3 to 4%, so it's definitely getting steeper now. I think the race for transition, we're already on the climb, so we've got about 9 kilometres of it remaining. There is a Category 2 test, the Col de Pradel, which is a bit more benign. But at the end of the day, only a Category 2 is offered up for the Plateau de Castellas. And to my mind, it should be maybe a higher classification. It's going to feel that way at the end, because the last 900 metres are averaged at 9.1%. And you think, oh, well, you know, it's not too bad. But the first 200 metres of that are 3.2%. It's the last 700 metres that go to 13. So it's the real percentage of that is, if we only categorised it for the last 700 metres, they like to do a kilometre at least. You get the idea. It's going to be a nasty spike at the end of it, and somebody is going to put a note to self upon that spike at the end of the day. Must do more, could have done better. Somebody's going to win it. We're not quite sure who, and that's the magic of this time of the year, Brian.
Yeah, I think looking at the categories, that's a question we always get asked, and you know, you've got your story, anecdote about how they categorise climbs, and I'll let you tell that. But I think nowadays, you know, I don't think there's any consistency across races. Some races Definitely. You go and look at the profile and you think, oh wow, this is really hilly, when it's not. But I think this is a first category. Purely because of the length of the climb, 13 kilometres. It's not overly difficult. If anything was going to happen, it was going to happen in this climb, Carlton. It's long enough and we ride it fast enough, it could have broke the peloton. But looking at it, nobody wants to kind of try and kind of race, take advantage. So everybody seems to be quite prepared to get into this final of today's stage and battle it out against a lot of these kind of top punchy riders.
Most definitely. It's I think it's going to be a bit of a skirmish here today. Here's the three up the road. Give them their credit. They've taken it on early from the invitee teams. CICU Nantes Atlantique with the orange shoulder is Julien Matisse. Matisse Julien. He'll forgive me. It's for those of you who found us, by the way. Congratulations. Give yourself a medal. This race is geolocked for much of Europe, so it's nice to have you on board. Yeah, Julien Matisse is a time trialist, so he's a great engine room to have up the road. He's only 21 years of age, and although time trial Palmares really shouts a bit louder for young riders, because essentially that's how you do your racing and find your form, is usually on point-to-point time trials. So everyone's a time trialist when they first start their career. He's only 21, but the Ronde de l'Oise, he won a stage of that, and the Tour de Beauce as well last year. So he's actually on pretty decent form. He did go to Marseille, finished within the pack, sort of sat up towards the end. But yeah, he's up the road. A little bit of a technical for Gachinard of Total Energies here, as you can see. Not much room for the car, so he's going to have to wait, Brian.
Yeah, and often when you get that opportunity, you go into the race radio and let them know you've got a puncture and the car will try and move up. It just goes to show you that, you know, where the car is. You always want it as close as possible, but in a narrow road like this, always very difficult when you shout down your race radio for your car to kind of try and kind of move up because of the width of the road. So the good thing about it, he'll get a change. He didn't look as if he was panicking at all, but he'll get back in. But looking at it now, I thought when I looked at the profile of today's stage that if anything was going to happen, it's going to happen on this climb. It does look as if Julien Bernard has come to the front for Lido Trek, and it's kind of upped the tempo a little bit. He's now been joined by Kern Farmer. So I think the call, Carlton, is the fact that it's just too easy a stage, and it's just too easy at the moment. And we all know that Mads Pedersen likes it a little bit more difficult. So what he's trying to do is kind of get his team to kind of up the tempo a little bit, make it a little bit harder, and just basically tire some of his rivals out before we get to that final.
Agreed entirely. I think Axel Laurence has called for action. Timo Kielich and Ed Blankert, good engines, and indeed reasonably quick men, and showing that they can cope with this climb, no problem at all. If they're coping, then there'll be a few others are as well. So the hurt has been demanded. They want it to be put on. Maybe just to filter it out just a little bit. There's no danger, Brian, in going deep on a race like this, because expectations, I guess, are quite low early season. The bag of excuses is quite full. You can pull out quite some different ones at this time of year. The focus really isn't on out and out on success, because it's just about getting yourself into a place to contest the rest of the year. I don't want to do down Étoile Bessèges at all, however, because this is a race that always provides drama for us, and I'm expecting a lot over the next few days.
Yeah, we were talking about that last week in the Challenge Mallorca races, that at the time it means a lot, and for a lot of these teams that are here, a win's a win, and you know they'll try their utmost to win. But in a few months' time, they'll look back, and if I asked you, you know, who won the second stage or the first stage of Étoile de Bessèges, you'd be, having to look it up. And same with the Challenge Mallorca races. You quickly forget. It's not, most people kind of tend to remember who won the kind of big monuments and the big stage races and things like that. And like you say, taking nothing away from these races at the start of the year, but I will say a win is a win, and a lot of these teams put pressure on themselves to get that kind of first win, get just chalked on the board, because success breeds success. And if you've got that form, that win at the start of the year, then you can build on that. You don't want to be going into kind of March still chasing your first win of the season. So although I think we're agreeing, Carlton, that it's not all solely important, but it is when it comes to just getting that kind of confidence booster at the end of the day.
Excuse me, doing a good job. Mads Pedersen is just over to the other side of the road. He's coming up, he's in wheel 4 at the moment. You can see as well that just in case there's any kind of moves going on, he's just making himself a little bit more comfortable for the time being. Ups into Koenig, just mobbing, a little bit mob-handed just behind, just making sure that nothing strange happens out front. Everyone's very attentive here, Brian. I'm actually wondering what they're fearing with 68.5 kilometres to go.
I'm not too sure that many will be fearing much at the moment. I think it's a case of, we just saw it there from the camera action from the helicopter there, that in some of these curves there's a little bit, if you're a little bit further back, you're having to get a break a little bit. It's with the snaking up this climb, you want to make it easy for yourself, and that's why we've got Mads Pedersen up, taking his arm warmers off. So he's up towards the front. You can also see in his new colours, number 81, the X on his back, Magnus Kort. Of course, many of these riders rode Grand Prix Marseille. I think he was in the 46th or something like that, which I was looking at him for this. This suits him right down to the ground, Magnus Kort, but I'm not too sure if he's quite at the form that we've seen in the past. This is what I was talking about. Yeah. The braking, the curves and things like that, that's why they're riding at the front, Carlton.
Yeah, exactly. It's a broken side of the road as well. You get yourself out of shape there. you kind of try and retrieve the situation, nudging in. You can see where it's just fractured a little bit down the bottom of your screen there. You kind of then lean back in, can't you? And then it reflects the accident across the road, I'm afraid, Brian, and that's what's happened.
Yeah, just to make it easy and safe, and unfortunately for the British rider Harrison Wood there for Cofidis. Harrison is a much improved rider. Last year, I remember, towards the end of the year, riding very well and has settled his way into the Cofidis team, but unfortunately just got caught there with one of his teammates. But yeah, we say this, and we saw it at the start of this climb card, and that little bit of acceleration to get decent positioning, because they're further back in this peloton, the higher risk you've got.
Yeah, indeed, safest place to be out front. It was the watchword, of course, the watch phrase of Team Sky back in the day. They often used to put the hammer down out front. Alex Baudin for Decathlon AG Tour Le Mondial. Shame that the brown is now absent from the peloton in terms of colours, Brian. It was a crowd favourite.
Not mine.
I liked it.
I remember we went to South Africa to race, and we got there and got our kit, and although it was black shorts, it was a kind of brown top, one of the kind of sponsors, and I hated it. But then again, that's me. But we have got some changes in some of the kits that we've got this year. We've got some riders kind of jumping over. I've yet to decide what my favourite kit is of the year. But certain kits stand out, and it's always one of these things you wait with anticipation, and as a commentator you hope most of the team kits are a little bit different. There were a few years that a lot of whites came in, and then a lot of blacks came in, and a lot of light blues. So we just want to see a big difference, because in the past we've had a lot of kind of clashing kits.
The black of Direct Energy back in the day, when they were the golden bagels, we used to call them. Yeah, that was one. That was more of a brown as well. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of gold, as you can see. It's almost like everyone's thought, right, we're not going all the blues and blacks and whites. Let's go bright yellow. And well, unfortunately, there's quite a few who've had the same thought. Flanders Bale Baloise is also very heavy on the yellow these days. Saint-Michel have gone less orange, more yellow on the approach, so the shoulders as you're looking for a heads up. Bingol, of course, very much yellow with the red sash. Corotec Vini Fantini carried a bit of Vini Fantini yellow over. Still have a little bit remainder from Uno X, of course, and there's yellow accents even on the sleeve caps here of EF Education Easy Post, as well as the yellow on Lidl. So yeah, I think yellow's the theme this year, Brian. I think I've worked it out.
Yeah, there is a bit of yellow. Unfortunately, we're not like any other sport where okay, you can do what you want with the away kits when you look at football and things like that, but still they have the kind of traditional colours that they play with. We see some fancy away kits, but I think that the biggest change in the teams has to be potentially Bardiani. Remember, they used to be very green, then went very purple, and now they've went very light blue, aqua colour. So yeah, it's one of these things, and we talked about it before, that teams change sponsors, and they change their kit regularly. There's no consistency across the board. We all recognise the sponsors rather than the management companies that are owning these teams, and many teams. I always used to say that as a team you have to create a brand. If you create a brand, then you get a sellable commodity, and we don't do that in cycling. In the past, I think one of the top teams used to sell about maybe 35,000 units of clothing and things like that. I don't know what they're doing at the moment because I'm not involved with any of the teams, but there's not a lot compared to a lot of the other sporting. And then you never know, people support individuals. You sometimes get teams, people supporting teams, but it's more so kind of individuals. It's kind of mixed up a lot of it, and it's not really consistent as maybe some other sports.
Some riders, of course, will they'll have things such as favoured seats and the like, and they'll even mask off the logos of their old favourite seat sponsor, just so they can keep their backside planted on something that suits them. But yeah, and the like, you see very much sometimes 3D printed handlebars that suit particular riders. But there's very little leeway these days, ever less leeway, I'm afraid, because sponsors want you to actually use their kit and for it to be verifiable that you have done so. That's how you sell the units, which is what this is all about. That's where the sponsorship for this game that we play comes from. Gaps come down on this climb. It's been quite a focused one, to be honest. They spread wide as they try to move up on some of the wider sections, then pinch again just after the curve. Minute and 39, minute and 38. It's our breakaway looks done for. Mads Pedersen very attentive out front, just offering up his thoughts to Julien Bernard, who's done the drive, and through come Groupama Francis de Jure with a couple of options here today. Kevin Genietz, but maybe Remy Rojas as well. Cards to play, Brian, for Groupama.
Yeah, and I think it'll be important for them. They have had a good start to the year. I'm not going to give away any kind of spoilers if you haven't seen, but they've had quite a successful start to the season. I also would throw in one of your favourites, Carlton, Quentin Pacheur, into the mix as well. Quite a punchy, good wee climber. And as his name pronounced, a punchy Pacheur right today, and he could do well. So I just think that after having success this year, we've mentioned it already, it breeds success. So I think Groupama FDJ will be pretty confident about delivering on a performance today.
Alberto Bettiol for EF Education. Watch him today. Sometimes that man can just turn on the genius, as he did, of course, back in the day in Flanders. He's a fantastic rider and part of a great team as well in EF Education Easy Post. Love that team and the way that they handle themselves. They operate on quite a narrow budget, to be fair, and yet they always punch well above their weight, and they're amongst the very best on any Grand Tour. Their stage wins come their way, and challenges as well for podiums and beyond. They're a great team. So Albert Bettiol, he was, the last time we did this in 2022, he came home fifth. I guess it went on to be a bit disappointing for him, but nonetheless. And he's been throwing out, as so many have, some mixed signals. His teammate of his, Stefan Bissiger, just going to the side of the road, puncture for him. No panic at all, apart from the poor mechanic who's got to deal with it. Dancing over the drainage ditch here at the side of the road, pretty heavy one cut in. There's usually heavy rains in this part of the world on occasion during the winter, and then it dries up and becomes almost parchment dry for the rest of the year. And in fact, forest fires are a big thing here. You'll see some blackened tree trunks occasionally with the new growth around it. Talking about new growth, some old as well. Alexander Kristoff. If you cut him in half, there'll be quite a few rings to be counted there.
I thought you were just about to say, when you're talking about tree trunks, strengthen those legs.
Yeah, well, you know what? He's actually mustered himself on stage finishes like we have today, but I'm just wondering if now those days are beginning to pass for him. He's never to be discounted, though, Brian.
No, again, he's at a podium already this year, and in one of the Challenge Mallorca events. And yeah, I would say in the past, if this was Tour of Norway, I think, yeah, I'd put him in there with the challenge. Like you say, he has won in the past in this race. He normally starts the season quite well, and but I think today maybe not. I think potentially all in he could maybe get top 10, but when you got the likes of kind of Mads Pedersen and a few of the others we've kind of mentioned, I think they are more of a favourite than Kristoff today.
I think so. It was in 2017. Yeah. Sorry, I missed that.
Cross country there by one of the riders.
Hope they're okay. We'll find out. Our breakaway today have actually made a good fist of the job of getting up the road. An expected duty, Brian, for some of the smaller teams to actually just keep the pace.
Yeah, there's a few teams that haven't decided to get themselves. You know, when you see the numbers 164, 176 and 184, you know that it's going to be the kind of continental teams. I think the only team that I've kind of missed out are Saint Michel. The only kind of French continental team that's here. We've got Nice Metropole, we've got Nantes, as we've mentioned, Van Rysel, Roubaix and Saint Michel. Third division teams in French cycling, so I was expecting when I saw the start list that we'll get all of the teams, all 4 riders, or 1 rider from each of the teams in the breakaway, but for some reason Saint Michel decided not to. They've got some good riders in there, of course.
They have, and they've got a card to play today with Romain Caldi as well, and I think that's maybe they're thinking he's got a good chance. That's maybe a little bit of optimism just bleeding through, but I think they've kept all the troops around him for that very reason, so they haven't put somebody in the break. Less cards to play, or not such good cards to play for these 3 teams who are up the road. The man in the pink here, by the way, was runner-up in the under-23 nationals this year, 22 years of age. Julien Maximilien. Yeah, he's reasonably handy. So what's his palmarès? Climbing. That's what he does. He climbs. And here we go. Yep. Well, bonus is up for grabs, Brian. Over the top here, it's the king of the mountain, KOM. There's a jersey up for grabs. Couldn't quite see. Whoa! Oh. Hello. Well, that's a strange place to place it, and I think my man, Julien, has actually just about held on there. Max Julien is back on the bike. He did the job, however, and as you can see, got a bit of applause there from the aerial of the motorcycle that's bringing you these pictures. Quite a sharp turn after what was a sprint for it, Brian.
Yeah, I was just about to say that the World Cyclocross Championships are coming up imminently in the next week. But yeah, just on that corner, like you say,
well done, man.
Why did he have to? It was always going to be a case, and rightly he stopped there because he went over the bars. Yeah. But why have it there? You know, it was quite dangerous because, you know, they really kind of fought for that one. I'm not too sure if he did get it.
I think he did.
But at the end of the day, definitely entertained us.
Yeah, he came tight on the barriers. Kind of a bit of ground rush as far as the peak was concerned, but got there. We'll have another climb and yet more points up for grabs with the Côte de Pradelle, which comes quite quickly actually, down into the valley, back up again, Brian, and that'll be with about 48 kilometres to go, so we're not that far away from yet more points. I imagine the breakaway may well have we'll see what the cohesion is, whether they allow Max Julien back in or not.
I think they will.
I hope so.
But definitely, you know, 3 riders that got themselves in the breakaway for this reason. They wanted to try and get the podium. The way to get onto the podium for many of these teams is to take one of these competitions. King of the Mountains, first category, big points up for grabs, and you know, a good sprint there for it. And I'm pretty sure that, you know, for the next one we'll see something very, very similar. I think come the end they won't get any opportunity, but yeah, just watch it here for the peloton, because they're coming in at a little bit of speed as well.
They certainly are, and look how compressed they are. It's coming in 5 and 6 wide, just a little bit sketchy on some of the dirt there, and then all of a sudden it's quickly into more or less single file all the way down this peak. They'll bounce into the valley, and then they'll be coming back up the other side and taking on our next test. I'll tell you more about it. Still just the duo up front. I think they're pushing on, possibly to snaffle some points on the next climb that will be without Max Julliard. I'm never quite sure just about if somebody challenges you for the top, anger will carry you on, Brian, but they really do need to moderate things if they want to have a chance of staying away. It's only 94 seconds though, for goodness sake, so maybe it's all in for these next points, and they're just hoping that Max Julliard maybe gets snaffled. Is that the plan?
Well, it looks as if it's a fast descent anyway.
Yep.
You can see them going into that corner there and kind of overshooting a little bit towards the right, so fingers crossed everybody gets down here. they can't afford just to kind of sit up and wait. I don't think they'll try and take too much of an advantage. Like you say, you know, the three have been riding well together. They've got any chance. There'll be strength in numbers, but maybe, you know, just with the outcome of, you know, that previous King of the Mountains, they do want to kind of take advantage and onto this next climb once they come off this quite tricky descent.
There's your forest fires I was telling you about, Brian. The scorched trees, it washes through this part of the world. It can get very intensely hot, can't it, here?
It definitely can, and like you were saying there, you know, we're seeing evidence of that.
Yep, indeed, that's the new growth coming through. So the old scorched trunks of the ancient trees here being replaced by the new. And this race kind of feels like that. It's actually awash with youngsters and also some star turns. So it's a good mix. We like that. No doubt about today's favourites, Mads Pedersen, and they're doing much of the driving for Lidl Trek. Meanwhile, ahead of the course, two riders after, I'm afraid, getting out of shape was Max Juliard. I don't think he's got back on just yet. There's not been any sight of him just for the time being. It's quite a technical descent, this, Brian, actually.
Yeah, it looks tricky, doesn't it? And you definitely don't want to be shooting off the side. But you can see here that they are going down with a little bit of speeds, but I'm not too sure they're taking too many risks.
Well, gaps holding, and you'd expect that, because those out front can pick all their lines. The chase, I mean, it's every rider for themselves, and if a decent team have got a decent descender to guide you down, you put him on the front, and indeed just follow in. 57.5 kilometres from home. Well, I'd like to throw to some of you for a brief chat on Twitter. If you are out there, it's at Carlton Kirby, CarltonKirby, at Bry Smithy, that's BRISMITHY. But yes, there's quite heavily restricted is the output from Étoile Bessèges Europe-wide. So if you found us, well done. You may well be watching this on a replay, but it'd be good to hear your thoughts in retrospect. So 57 kilometres to go. This feels like we're a lot nearer to home, Brian. It's been full on since we came to air, both the climb and naturally the descent. Puncture here, keep it sensible. Rear puncture, just making sure that they stay where they need to. It looks like a complete bike change for Gachinard. The speed he was going at, I was wondering whether it was a front puncture actually, because he looked a bit out of control there, Brian.
Yeah, didn't he have a problem just before as well?
He did, yeah. So a bit about that.
The problem is there he's on the left-hand side of the road. They say in the race convoys that, you know, service on the right, so he just has to be aware. But he was onto the race radio. I think he had a puncture on the climb previously, so he's been really unfortunate having another puncture there. But as we saw, he had to wait previously to get his team car, and his team car must be quite well down in this convoy. Not the best time to puncture, but just look at the length of this peloton now coming down here, and sometimes if you're out of position, Carlton, you're just hoping that the riders you know, keep the gap in front of them and don't lose the gap, because we see it quite often when we come off long descents like this. Someone's let the gap go and you come off and you could be almost a minute down. Yep,
with the pace that they're going. And then if you're not a confident descender, some people actually very much like to follow downhill. And if you get somebody good in front of you, you're going to get a decent run. Anyway, we speculate. Bike exchange. I'm actually wondering whether he might have got a corrupted exchange and now wants his real bike back. Sometimes riders will take either neutral or indeed get a bike swap with a teammate. We'll see. That's not a wise thing to do. Just stand. I mean, they look like roofers, so you know I'm not going to educate them.
Roofers on a roof.
Who'd have thought? Well, they say that you know the only way that there's only two kinds of roofers: those who've fallen off a roof and those who are going to fall off a roof. It's just part of the job, I'm afraid, is how badly you come out the other side of it. It feels pretty much like that. Those who've crashed as well on descending, generally tends to dial something back out of it unless you're an absolute nutcase. You know, one of those people who can park up their fear, and they're extremely accomplished at doing just that. For us mere mortals, you get one bad crash and it does wipe out your confidence just a little bit. We've seen some good descenders, Brian, become very bad descenders very quickly after a bad one.
Yeah, it does happen from time to time. You know, we've seen, you know, one of the probably best descenders we've seen in the pro peloton, Mate Mohoric. We've seen just a couple of years ago a nasty accident on a descent, but it hasn't stopped him. He's still super confident, but it does kind of rock you a little bit if you've had a nasty one, and you know, you're less willing. It's like falling off. The sooner you get back on, the better, because you start to think about it too much. And you know, looking back in my days, you know, we used to race without, you know, a helmet on, and I know that, you know, there's a lot of arguments, I guess. Well, does it help? Well, superficially it does, maybe not the impact, but there was a case where when helmets came into the peloton, it gave you a false sense of security, and there was kind of more risk takers. But yeah, looking back when I used to be pro, I never really thought too much. And as soon as you start thinking about it, even coming around this corner, potentially hitting that bridge and going over the other side, you don't think about these things. As a commentator now, I wince quite a lot when I watch bike races. My toes curl the whole time in sprint finishes, but when you're in it, you're just relaxed about it. You don't, everything happens in slow motion when you're on a bike. Even when you're crashing, I can remember it's all happening in slow motion, but when you see it back in real time, it happens so quick.
There's no doubt about his calling for pace here today, and Mats Pedersen, I think he wants to test himself more than anything else, to be honest. We've got some very, very accomplished riders who've decided to make the trip here. Alpecin, you know, that's Ed Clankup, by the way, who could be an outsider for today. EF Education don't want to miss out on the duty, especially if something strange happens here. Coming up to our next climb, does it offer up the opportunity to push on and get the jump on the fields? I think there's too much talent here, Brian.
Yeah, I'm not
a split here.
Confident. Oh, there will be a split because the length of the peloton, and it will come back. And the reason why Mats Pedersen is here is just look how relaxed it is at the front of the peloton. And when you come off a descent and someone's left a gap open and you're having to chase, these guys are clicking along at maybe high 50s, 60 kilometers an hour. Imagine what you have to do to close the gap behind. So yeah, it's big efforts that you have to make. I'm just looking at Tim de Klerk up towards the front. Remember Tim de Klerk of his that Belgian team he used to ride for?
Yeah. And Saint-Michel Mavic, Aubert, 93, are absolutely in the vanguard, as we said they would be, Brian. They're working for Roman Cardi today.
Yeah, they have done. They've got Deletra as well, Cabot. They've got some strong riders. Hopefully we might get sight of Joulard. He's been confirmed as the winner at the top of that King of the Mountains there. So as the cameraman having a bit of a chit-chat, I thought they were just about to swing round.
Me too, I think they were as we cut away. They're teasing us, Brian. I mean, I guess early season for everybody. Very still water here, as you can see. Don't try camping on that central island and get yourself into all kinds of trouble. If there's any kind of rain further up the valley, it generally tends to come through as a flash, and that'll be your tent further down the river and possibly with you in it. So yeah, just respect the rocky parts and stay away from them. Into town and on to our next climb, Brian, almost immediately.
Yes, indeed. A lot shorter climb, this one, 3.1, 5.8% maximum, so, you know, shorter and punchier. Really like to see if we have all three together. It looks like the TV camera bike went the long way round that.
Yeah, it's going to come and rejoin the peloton halfway. That's exactly what's happened.
You hear the acceleration.
Yeah, get me out of here. Then he can start filming again. Bless him. Yeah, the Col de Pradelle is what we're engaged with now, and the steepest part actually is at the beginning, 6.3%. So in fact, I'm not sure we're quite on it just yet. I guess we are. So 3.1 kilometres, peaks out at 47.5, and here's your answer, Brian. He's back. But they will have done a job on him. They didn't wait up for him, and that means he's going to be a little bit more fatigued potentially by the time we get to the top here. He'll try and rest in, having a look-see. I want to keep the hurt on quite clearly. You form an alliance, Brian, but it can be a fragile one in cycling because ultimately you're going to have to disappoint your amigos in a situation like this.
Yeah, it's a difficult one sometimes. I know that they're all French on French teams, or French speaking on French teams, but there is kind of bitter rivalry. We've got kind of one Canadian, two French, but between all these three French teams, it'll be dog eat dog sort of thing. You don't want another of these French teams taking a jersey if you can get it. So, like you say, they just took a little bit of advantage. They never really expended extra energy, but it just took a little bit longer in that descent for him to come back. Of course, Max Julard will be thinking, well, you didn't exactly kind of wait too much for me, so I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to sprint again, and hopefully the top won't be in a corner.
There we are. What have we got here? Lenny. It's so strange. They've given it to Lenny. So finally, Brian, they've recalibrated, and Nice Metropole's Jean-Louis Lenny has been credited with the maximum points there. Well, there you go. Surprise. I honestly thought that Juillard had got through, but it wasn't quite to be. Do we go with the graphics or your wisdom?
Yeah, well, my wisdom is coming from another feed it gave it to, but that must have been what we were looking at as well. They were looking exactly the same, but maybe. I think we have to go with the official graphic in this one, because they will be getting the information directly, yep, and not just visually.
Well, that bodes well for the knee, because he's not going to have to bend one, I'm afraid, to Max Julard, who was
just come up again. Sorry, Carlton.
Yeah.
It's just said Max Julard, 10 points, Lenny 8 points, Julien 6 points, Bernard 4, Pedersen 2.
Quite well. Should we stick with Julard then? That was our hunch before, and obviously they've changed the graphic, so let's do that. As I say, early season for everyone, Brian, even the guys calling in the graphics.
What do you mean early season? I've already done 5 days.
Bless you. Minute and 24, gaps come down. Just having a look at some of the chit-chat that's going on back here. Not much of it. It's been quite pacey today, Brian. I guess the good weather has helped in that regard. It can, this race, really suffer, can't it, with inclement weather. It's been almost rained off in the past this.
It has.
We've had shortened days with minor protests, actually, in this race.
Yeah, we have. I lived just along the coast in Nice. I know we're not on the coast, which is kind of inland from... If you just come inland from the likes of Marseille, that's where we are, but I was kind of moreover lived in Nice, and it was always a really nice sunny blue days, and I really enjoyed that there. Nice is nice, and yeah, I really enjoyed it, and used to have my
finger niece with a
I never Carlton, I'm not a kind of paper reader. I don't crave, you know, getting a daily paper, a tabloid, and sitting and reading it, but for some reason on the Promenade des Anglais I used to I'll just catch up. Hang on a minute.
Did you buy something? Did you buy a newspaper?
I did, but it just made me, because when you watch TV in France, it's French news, and you just wanted to kind of catch up on what was happening back home. And for the first couple of times I used to get in, I don't know if you spent a lot of time there. Bit of a coming together. Again, for that reason, that just hit a climb, everybody kind of breaking and things like that, and everybody falling off. But I don't know, Carlton, if you've been in that part of the world, but they sell yesterday's papers.
Yes.
So I get yesterday's paper, and he started talking to me, the vendor. Then we got to kind of know each other a little bit. So the third time I went to the counter, and he went underneath the counter and brought out that day's newspaper. And I went, what happened the last 2 times? And he went, well, I have to sell yesterday's paper before I sell today's paper.
But
so he used to give me the day's paper, and I used to sit there in a deck chair after the training ride and catch up what was happening in the news at home.
So you became a regular. So he actually started. He allowed you to have today's news.
Yes.
Oh dear. Well, yeah, I'm quite used to that scenario, to be honest. I spent some time in the South Pacific. The newspapers used to arrive in a bundle. It was a weekly bundle, late. So some of the news was actually 2 weeks late. And some of the expats used to actually read on the tropical atoll of Funafuti. They used to read in very strict chronological order, so they're always 2 weeks behind with the news. And you'd have somebody saying, "Good Lord, Lance Armstrong's won another stage." It was 2 weeks old. Anyways, that was then. This is now. 48.5 kilometres then from home, which suggests that we've got another mountain sprint coming up for us in a moment, Mountain Prix. Any moment now. In fact, it's in about 800 metres time. And so are we now settled that Max Julliard won that one in the pink?
I'm not saying anything, Carlton. Graphic and what we've been given are two completely different things. But let's see how these guys battle it out. It's between the man in blue, the nice man, and the man in pink at the back. They were first and second. And it does look as if Julliard is about to... He's looking for it, he's searching for it. Could be just about to pounce.
Well, Lani is the man who they duked it out between the pairs. He's near between the pairs, and this is the man who's nearest to us now, Nice Metropole. And it's already started, and I think that Lani is going to get... Now he's going to play this one clever. The big man, Mathis Julien, and he's gone through. He has. He's going to stake a claim to this jersey. It's only a Category 2 this time, however, so lesser points, 6 at the top instead of 10. We'll see how it pans out. Crucially, it depends on who took the higher category climb earlier on, Brian.
Yeah, we'll do, because I don't think they'll be taking any at the finish.
No.
But the gap coming down 125 on this climb as well. But I think Julliard just struggling a little bit from the efforts of coming back to the duo in front.
Yeah, so extraordinarily well played, I must say, by Jean-Louis Lani. However, as they finish 1 and 2 on the Category 1 and 1 and 2 on the Category 2, whoever won the Category 1 is going to be in the lead this. But we don't know who that is yet. So the mountains competition, at least information-wise, is wide open. We'll do our best to tell you what it is at the end. Time to send our focus really to the finale of today, the Plateau de Castellas, and indeed the ramps that we're going to have to deal with. This is going to be a hell of a punch-up, and I hope that it's not, as we've seen so often the case in the past, Brian, that Little Trek have done too much work for too long and find themselves a bit tuckered out by the end.
I'll just suggest that Mads Pedersen is feeling good.
Yeah, must be.
So, to all the other teams out there, it's a bit of a statement, So, but then you have to back it up, of course, and we know he's done that in the past, but feeling good. He'll know what the numbers are in training coming into this, and he'll know what he needs to do. And the last thing he'll want is to let down his teammates. You don't ask your team to come to the front and start to ride, and it does look as if Groupama are doing exactly that, and that's off the back of recent success. Carlton, we mentioned it a moment ago that they have got potentially the winner there. Might not be as good potential as Mads Pedersen, of course, but when you've had success already this year, it gives you that kind of confidence, and you can rise above it instead of thinking that should we ride, are we capable of winning. Groupama are saying to me that we definitely think we can win, which is a good trait.
I think so. Geniet's taking GP Marseillaise, and he's got a reasonable chance today. To be honest, for this particular stage, I didn't pick Geniet's as my main man. Let's see, he can time trial a bit as well, so it's the all-round package, and I'm just wondering whether wrestling his way today is something he actually wants to get involved with, whether it be others that have that fun. Let's wait and see, shall we? There's obviously lots of reasons because of the Marseilles to have confidence in Kevin Genietz, but let's see, maybe that was... You can be a bit peaky in your form at this time of year, Brian. If you put a lot in, which he clearly did in Marseilles, it might have knocked him back for this.
It may have done, but it's that type of finish was a little bit different to, you know, what they're getting today. This is this finish today, short and steep, suits a real punchy, you know, kind of sprinter type, and I'm not too sure Genietz is quite there. When we talk about first and second, the last time we were here of Kokar and Mads Pedersen, that's the sort of riders we're looking at. Genietz maybe on some of the kind of longer climbs might be a little bit better, but on this kind of punchier climbs, I'm possibly maybe looking at Pasteur instead of Genietz. Of course, Genietz is very capable with the form he's got at the moment of maybe kind of top 10, maybe top 6, but that kind of top 3, that win, I think there are other riders in here that probably are better at this type of finish.
Agreed. I think it's just a bit too spiky for him. Just extremely steep percentages are not really Kevin Genietz's thing. Quentin Pasteur you mentioned. They've also got Remy Roja, who could go well on this, Brian.
Again, it's another rider that prefers maybe slightly longer climb. But the thing is, Carlton as well, you have to have the team and you have to have that craft in getting good position. We know that Mads Pedersen is very good at that. You don't really want to be starting his final climb in the 30th place.
No, and he's actually, his positioning wise, he's been impeccable so far today. It's almost like a practice, or indeed a preview to what we have to come. What do you think of Benjamin Thomas for today?
Well, he has been up there in this race. He does well in this race.
2 years ago he was fourth.
Yeah, it's another rider that is going to be there, just like Genietz with the form that he's got. Of course, you know, Benjamin Thomas, he hasn't shown much this year. Very, very early, but he's the sort of rider that can definitely do well in this finish. Whether it's a win, he's another rider. I think that there are other better riders that could possibly beat him. One, it's about positioning, so you know everybody knows that coming into this final climb, everybody knows that the final climb, steep, quite narrow, you have to be pretty much in the top 10. If you're not in the top 10, they're really going to kind of ramp it up towards the finish, and even if you've got 5, 6, 7 bike lengths to make up, that's a serious effort.
It is. They've also got Anthony Perez as another card to play, Cofidis. Let us see. No Brian Kokar. Unfortunately, it would have been nice to see. Harrison Woods.
They do have a champion.
Yeah. Let's see. Thomas. Champion. Brian's already started. See what I mean. Alex Fiamos. In the old days, he probably would have been one of those that we put up there.
100%.
Yep, exactly. Has he still got it?
I don't think he's quite there. He showed some signs over the last kind of couple of years, but definitely Fiamos is one of these riders that kind of liked it. When he won the Tour de France stage in Bretagne, the Mur de Bretagne, it was
just
didn't he? He was incredible, but he hasn't been quite there yet. Whether he'll get there in the future, I'm not too sure.
Let's see. Hope so. Let's see. It could be a surprise by the time we get to the end of this race. Some are going to be playing a long game. Some will be looking for naturally just individual stages. But Matt Pedersen could actually just take the lot, to be honest. Depends very much how he copes with the time trial at Alice at the end of this race. It is lumpy towards the end. It does have a pickup with about a third of it to go, so that might play into his hands. Let's wait and see. Depends on what sort of advantages we're looking at. Can't see the gaps being huge today. Everyone, despite the high pace that we've had, reasonably high pace, climbing terrain today, and we're averaging around about 39.6, 40 kilometres per hour. That's not bad. Coming into Matinée. I think they do a hard T down here, so Matinette. But this is shortly. We're going to be taking a big turn when we get to La Monge, and that's when we start our circuit, Brian, which will bring us home. It's quite a big circuit. We do pass by the little cutaway which will take us up to the finish, but only complete that once. So we'll pass by the foot of the final climb as we're on this circuit, which we're about to join shortly.
Yeah, just a look at the finish here. The same team, Lido Trek, are the team that's sitting at the front of the peloton. These three guys seem to have forgotten about the rivalry on the King of the Mountains and have started to try and kind of keep this advantage. It's always going to be very difficult, but at least one of these guys will be on the podium as the King of the Mountains. We'll wait for confirmation on that, but with just over 1 minute 20, the bunch like this, they are coming back. But it does look as if Mads Pedersen, former world champion, is really interested in winning this stage today.
Yep. Uno-X, Rasmus Tiller, Magnus Cort. Magnus Cort, one of the choices for the overall title, along with Étoile, with Mads Pedersen, and indeed a few others as well. Kevin Genietz is not to be discounted. Kevin Vakela. I want to know how he's going to go for Arkea. They've been reasonably quiet, Brian, but keeping in touch.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams will be quite happy kind of sitting back, allowing Lido Trek and potentially Groupama just to lead the way and not kind of use up too much of their energy. This race traditionally over the last years has been won and lost in kind of seconds, so every second is going to count. But there's definitely a lot of teams in there that want to do well. You were just touching on Total Energies. Burgodeau is another rider that's very kind of punchy come the end, but again there's a few question marks over a lot of these riders. What sort of form are they on at the moment? So, but it seems to be everybody kind of leaning on Lido Trek. Groupama did come up, they've just sat back again. The team sitting in second place seems to be Lotto Destiny. They've started the year well. They've got some good riders in here. Brent Van Moort, Tamino, Sagart, Mounton, you've mentioned Greenard, Drisners and Bergmos. So a few new names in this race today, a few names on some of these teams, so let's see what they can do.
It's interesting what you say about Vakala, and riders like him in terms of what sort of form. I actually don't know whether he's going to be overly comfortable on the sort of spike that we've got at the end of the day. He is punchy, but it's a bit of a mystery, Brian, because sometimes you get some quite heavy, fast men who can cope with that duration of climbing, even at that level of intensity at 13%. And so don't be surprised if Kevin Vakala pops up actually at the end of today and actually produces the goods.
I think there were a few riders trying to kind of pop up. Possibly not just for today. Like I said a moment ago, Carlton, this race is decided on seconds rather than kind of minutes, so every second is going to count, and there'll be a few riders thinking of the finish, and of course there'll be a few riders thinking of limiting losses. And we talked about some of the time trial specialists. How much time can Bessèges take and some of the other rivals that are here, so limiting losses definitely.
Let's see, 37.7 kilometres from home, and it's the last. Do you know what? The sort of pace they're racing at the moment, as we are indeed on our little circuit here. In fact, I've told you a lie. We are about 3 kilometres away before we make the turn at La Monge, and then we're on this loop, which will last for just under 35 kilometres, nearly there. The sort of pace that they've put into this today bodes well for this finale. It kind of feels like approach pace, Brian, that we've got about 18 kilometres to go. They are racing to the foot of this climb to try and tee up their man as best as they possibly can. And it's hard to look by at Little Trek. They're confident they can do this. There'll be a few that are out to stop him. But it could be battle plan delivered par excellence today by the look of it.
The thing is, you can do this all day. I was actually talking to someone about this last week. should you ride on the front? Why do certain teams do it? Why do other teams not? Each have got their own kind of management, and management decides. Just because they did it in the past is tradition. If you want to kind of win the race, you're the big favourite, then you ride on the front. And why should you? Why don't you just let others do the work? So there's some of these sports directors just this is what we've done for the last few years. This is what we're going to continually do. And sometimes you have to kind of think outside the box sometimes. And for Lidl Trek doing what they do, it looks as if a few teams, riders, have decided to use this as the kind of final natural break to have a pee. So there's a few. When you see the likes of Mads Pedersen stopping, others will take advantage, just stop altogether, get back in, and then just concentrate on this final. But there's a lot of teams, a lot of riders we've kind of mentioned so far. This could be a little bit of a lottery. We could see some surprises, but I think Mads Pedersen definitely is the man to beat today. He was second a couple of years ago. The question is, who else can beat him? There's a few teams thinking of that, but let's see what sort of form he's in. It's just one of these finishes that when you get to the top, you're gasping for air. Your legs are twice as big as they were at the bottom of the climb. It's just one of these big, full lactic, and who's good at doing that? All bike riders are good at certain things, but it's like a kilometre time trial in the track effort type of thing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. When you talk about form, and some riders are kind of displaying some at the moment. Julian Bernard still doing the pacing for us at the moment for the aforementioned Mads Pedersen. Alberto Bettiol, some mixed signals, I think it's fair to say, came out of Mallorca and his efforts there. But you never know when you're quite going to hit form, and they clearly believe that at least one of their number is going to have a dig. We've seen Ben Hingley, Irish champion, also been highlighted. Lucas Nerurka is here, actually, the youngster, 20 years of age. I can't remember his dad, Olympic athlete as well, runner. But yes, he is here. But yeah, it should be for Bettiol. Bessèges, I think, is going to have his fun a little bit later on when it comes to the time trial. Might be a question of playing a long game and just expecting that to deliver in the end. Don't know what the battle plan is. Magnus Kort, Marcus Holgaard, Rasmus Tiller. This is a very, very strong unit from Uno X as well. Don't be surprised if they actually pull something out of the bag today, because they can do it. Tiller or Magnus Kort, they're top candidates, I think, from the team, of absolutely smorgasbord of talent that they are displaying. It's nice to see them at this high level as well. They often give bigger teams a bloody nose to Uno X. Like watching them a lot. Let's see if they can possibly get the upper hand today. They're doing the honour of going through our breakaway here, Brian, which usually suggests that the directors think that it might well soon be day done, but they've lived up to the expectations today. They came here as invitation teams. They've been in the break. They're going to get themselves a jersey. That is job completed for the breakaway, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a matter of trying to get as much TV time as possible. But yeah, I've always been a kind of supporter of the Uno X team, as of the way they write, not shy about taking it on. And I can remember them when they were quite a small team, kind of bold move, going up a division and then again. They've added this team alone. When you look at it, Leknesund, Holgaard, Magnus Kort, they're three strong signings alone that have come into this team. So they're not here just to make up the numbers. They're here to deliver performances, and they've already delivered good performances this year already. Keep on saying it. A win's a win, and a win gives confidence to the team. And there's riders here that are very capable of delivering, whether it's today or overall. They're definitely a team that's always here to race.
Very much so. Just checking on Alpes in here. slight pinch point in the roads. Just back to Kevin Vacquelin of Arkea B&B Hotels, another merged team, so the red and the blue of B&B. It was a nice aqua colour that often got mistaken for Kern Farmer, to be fair. Yeah, they're all red livery. You can see them embedded within the pack as you look down. But Vacquelin is on fantastic form. He got himself a podium at the GP Marseillaise, and that was, he was in very, very good company there. He led in, I think he finished alone, solo, didn't he, 10 seconds down or so before the pack just behind him, led in by Pierre Guittard. And the like, Quinta Pacher was in there, Mr. Inexpensive. But Kevin Genietz was the man who just beat Baudin at the very line. Yeah, Baudin is here. I don't think that this finish is a Baudin kind of finish, but then again, stranger things have happened. It could, but will he? We're going to find out at the end today. It's 32.4 to go. They've eased up at the front, and it looks like the chase has also eased up a little bit, Brian. Everyone's just getting themselves into colour order and mentally prepared for this big test at the last.
I still find it's going to be difficult for these three to stay away. Of course, they'll put up a big fight. It's not often we see breakaway success like this. Of course, it does depend on who wants to kind of take it up behind. We see it sometimes. It's happened from time to time. The first stage of a stage race, breakaway goes out there, and who is going to chase and who is going to bring it back. Well, that question has already been answered, and when you start to show at the front and ride at the front, then you don't want to make any mistakes. It's clear that Mats Pedersen wants to try and win today, and that's what Trek are trying to do. The other team's just kind of happy. This breakaway sitting out there with just over 90 seconds. It seems to be going smoothly for the peloton, but things can change, and I don't know how much left in the tank that the other three have. By the looks of the way they were kind of sprinting for the King of the Mountains, I don't think they've got a lot left.
Max Julian, I've noticed, he's got a very interesting pedalling style. He actually, it's almost like pointillismo. He's got he's actually stabbing the ground with his feet, almost ballet dancer up on blocks, just pointing straight down. Looks very ungainly, but it's working for him. He's in the break, he's doing a job. So is this man. How much work has Julien Bernard done today? He's an absolute beast.
Well, I think he's got a friend in that motorbike in front as well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, getting no exchanges asked for or indeed offered. No elbows flicking out. Bernard is quite prepared to sacrifice himself. There's a few riders that engage in that sort of work rate, Brian, without complaint.
There is, and they've taken on one, Tim de Klerk, this year, changing from Soudal Quickstep. That was a bit of a surprise to many because he was a kind of big workhorse. It's the same with Julien Vermote. They used to call him Vermoter, and then Le Tractor. These are sort of guys that put in the work unselfishly to pave the way for many successes. So this is what you have in a team. A team is not made of potentially 7 winners. It's you've got your workers, and you've got the rider that you want to protect. And quite often, we don't see a lot of the work that's put into kind of looking after your leader for the stage. We can clearly see it at the fronts, but there's other things that are going on in the peloton that you don't often see, not unless you've got a good eye. But there's a lot of work being done. We've seen that Mats Pedersen stopped for a natural. Well, even just hanging back and bringing them to the peloton and bringing them up to the front, getting bottles, all these sort of things, just making sure that he's kept out the winds. There's a lot of work being done by a lot of these the riders that we don't kind of really see in the peloton that is worth just kind of mentioning.
Well, there's Irish champion Ben Healy in the centre of this highly accomplished If Education Easy Post team. If anyone's going to mug Little Trek, it's potentially going to be them. Also very much staying In the vanguard here, Lotto Destiny, Milan Menton we mentioned, their time trialist, Alex Sigat, he'll have a dig late on. Such a good time trialist, he might have an option for the title overall, we shall see. Brent Van Moor also here. Bokamos, a 22-year-old, gets their principal status for Lotto. Never quite know what the thinking is behind that. Just sometimes giving riders the honour of carrying the number one within their team. It's almost like a gift sometimes, isn't it, Brian?
Well, the way they do it is, you know, unless when you do the paperwork as a team manager, but it's more, there's an administrator that does this. I know as a past kind of general manager, I used to do quite a lot of the kind of paperwork and things like that, but some teams have got different kind of manager for different areas, and maybe just, you know, making sure that you know, the paperwork is done. And if you just, because most teams will just be listed by alphabetical order, unless you actually, you know, put down the you know, what you want them to be, so you can allocate that kind of number one. And then you get some organisers that, if they are in alphabetical order, they might just decide, you know, if they see a top rider, and they'll decide. But more so, it seems to be just kind of alphabetical order when it comes to teams, unless it's actually done on the paperwork itself by the team.
Yeah, looking down the list, Lotto Destiny, I don't think it is a gift for Bokamos. Basically, it's all in alphabetical order, as Brian has just said. So, still pounding on the pedals, as you can see, and still nobody really wanted to take it up. I think he might well just be off duty fairly soon. Spreading across the road, and Kern Farmer have come to join in. Fifth, the Grand Prix Marseillaise, was Paul Miquel, who is Kern Farmer's rider. They'll be backing him, Brian, with that kind of performance. Yeah, why not? It'd be lovely to see him kind of repeat the feat. Top 5 would go down very well for Kern.
Yeah, I think very capable again. Another team that has got a rider that's capable of getting up there in the top 6, definitely kind of top 10. So, you know, every team that's here has got a goal. Of course, not everybody, you know, wants to win, but can everybody win? So, you know, you have to be realistic sometimes, and it's all about kind of goal setting. And if the goal of the team in this race in the first stage is to get someone in the top 6, and they do that, then they move on. It's kind of ticking off the small goals to get the big goal, and you don't often see it because everybody thinks that, you know, whoever wins, everybody is unhappy about it. But when you're a smaller team, and I've managed smaller teams, then you have to be kind of realistic. And I can remember when with MTN Quebec, when we started the Tour de France, the first African team in 2015, the goal that day was to get Steve Cummings to finish in the top 10 in the prologue, and he was 10th. That was a success, but to most teams that was a failure, because, you know, they're trying to win. So he set these wee things off. Even, you know, a couple of stages later, getting someone in a breakaway, to some teams that's a success. So for the likes of Van Rysel, Nantes and Nice, if their goal is to get a rider in the breakaway today, that's success. So everybody deals with their different goals in different ways. Of course, the big teams, it is all about the win, but for a lot of these teams in here, they have to look at what success and what goals they've got.
Just looking where we are going to pass by, looking for Saint-Julien, which is just about the foot of where the climb is detailed. Salindré is where we're coming through now. It's just been pointed out to you. Yeah, I must admit, map-wise, I've not got the most detailed map. It's actually a region, Salindré, I believe, not indeed a settlement. So yeah, just I'm telling you why I'm befuddled at the moment. One thing befuddled, yeah. One of the things that's disappointing me, Brian, is that there's no wind. I was hoping that was going to be a major factor today, but yeah, it's going to be. I guess that might well open up this final climb to a few that would have been knocked back with the predicted headwind, which is no longer part of proceedings.
Yeah, the wind not playing a major part for a lot of the riders. They're kind of happy with this. I think, you know, there are a few things that worry teams and riders. you know, if you're a sprinter, you worry about climbs, but I think one of the common things is most people worry about crosswinds, and I'm saying most, maybe all. Some with it deal better than others. You only have to kind of be out of position a little bit, and you know you're in the second echelon, so it's not always easy. And I think it's the common factor that for a lot of these riders, that if the wind was blowing and there's potentially crosswinds, then they can't relax at all because it's so nervous, so dangerous as well. And I think if there was a survey went out to all of these riders in this race today, and you know what would be their fear, and it would definitely be the wind, and that's why we look at it, that's why we talk about it. And most bike riders, when they finish their career in cycling, would make brilliant weather forecasters, because that's what you do as an outdoor cyclist.
Is this a bid, Brian, for a new role?
I don't know if I've got the
maybe
the name or the I can't talk and look at a screen and maybe I've done it when I was doing the kind of coach position of facing the camera and talking about what's behind without actually watching what's behind.
That's how he drives as well. Meanwhile, we are now on a rapid approach pace, Brian, because there's going to be a race to the foot of this climb, because it's all or nothing.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, for a lot of these riders it will be maybe kind of 5 kilometres a go. Make sure that you're right up to the front before then, although the climb, as you said, is right at the end, but you want good positioning and everybody's going to be thinking the same thing. So I think the race is gradually starting to happen for positioning towards the front of the peloton.
I'm just looking at Bettiol at the bottom here. He's had a long chat with Stefan Bissegger, who can TT him beautifully to the foot of this climb. They're clearly getting motivated. There's a few others here as well who are feeling pretty much the same. This is now starting to get rather busy, and I'm actually wondering, I'm seeing some of those not smaller teams, but some of those who would like to make a big noise for themselves. Nice Metropole are actually just starting to get up front. I'm wondering who it's likely to be for, to be honest. I think possibly Eneca. There you go. For them. Let's see. The pale blue of Nice Metropole, Côte d'Azur, are over to the left there. I think they're possibly just making us talk about them before indeed everyone else gets involved heavily. It does happen. Groupama have mustered at the front. It's got to be a reassembly, I'm afraid, for at the front. Maybe they've just taken on sustenance for EF Education and Bettiol. There he is, not wearing number 1, riding the centre line for you at the moment. He's reasonably well protected. A few others to conjure with. Valerio Conti for Team Corotec,
yep.
Vini Fantini. Why not, Brian?
Yeah, he was a rider, I think it was a few years ago. In a Giro d'Italia. Got a stage in the Vuelta, of course, in 2016, and has been up there in the Tour of Turkey, favourite race of ours, second in 2019, but I remember an uphill finish. 2019 he finished second to Masnada, Conte, so you know, good rider, good punchy rider, but although he's kind of very slight, that's the thing that kind of worries me about him. Maybe a slightly longer climb would be most suited to the rider than, you know, the big power effort that we're going to get today.
There's Benjamin Thomas being picked out for you, just almost on his wheel. One of the teammates of Valerio Conti is a little bit further down that strand at the moment. Meanwhile, out front, still doing a pace setting, is Lidl Trek. Groupama sharing a little bit of the duty, but not terribly much. And EF, in fact, have hit the front now, and here they come. So this is the Bettiol boys. Have you decided to make a prediction for today yet, Ron?
I haven't till now. I think with all the work that's been done, after finishing second a couple of years ago, I'm going to go with the Dane of the day, Mads Pedersen.
No, I think that's a good choice. It's a safe choice, perhaps.
Yeah, very safe.
Yeah. Do you know what? I asked you the question like I've got something teed up.
I know. I just want to say there's no money on this one, or no volleyball or anything like that.
No,
you can just
not even
relax.
a single. Oh, all right. A bit of ballast being expelled here. Sure. Mads Pedersen, it's hard to look by him. I'm going to go with Bettiol. I've been banging on about him for a bit. I think it's time for him to wake up. Missed messages from Alberto. Got crash in the roundabout. Looks okay. Hope that is the case. Taking a while to get himself back up though, which is never a great sign. Winded more than anything else. You never know how you've been caught by the bike itself that rolls underneath you either. It's a question of checking yourself out at a moment like this, Brian, isn't it?
Yep, Damien Girard. Looks as if he's just kind of slipped out there. Maybe not the high speed crash, but these are the ones that you can get broken collarbones and scaphoids and what like from. But yeah, when everything seemed to be going well for that team, a man in the breakaway up towards the front, and yeah, disappointing. But it's a team that, although just along the coast, they really, look at this race as a race that they want to do well in, and with having that rider in the breakaway, they've already succeeded. And it was clear to me the reaction from that rider, just very disappointed about crashing there.
Well, if we're going to allow ourselves a cheeky outsider, I'm going to go for Paul Mikel, who's Team Kern Farmer up here. Would you care to do a cheeky outsider as well, Brian?
Well, I don't know if he can be cheeky.
He can be.
Maybe not an outsider, but Cosnefroy. Nice. He's a definite rider that on form, and that's the question for me and that's why he's an outsider. I don't know what form he's in.
That's not a cheeky outsider, Brian. You know the rules. If you'd said Valerio Conti, I'd have allowed that, but I'm not allowing Cosnefroy. He's a joint favourite as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
see how you tried to slip that in there, but it's not going to work with me. Come on.
Okay, I'll probably have to delve a little bit deeper into this. Oh, what about
Camille Bonneau?
You give me Simon Carr.
That'd be nice. I'll allow that. Simon, it's within the rules.
Adjudicator has decided.
Let's see. Oh dear, this is nice. Minute and 11. Our breakaway are all bar done. It's counting down rapidly, as you can see. I don't know whether the handshakes have gone up or they've stopped to buy a Magnum. Probably a white one. That's the flag they're waving, because these guys are coming. And Bettiol has called for a little bit of pace. There was a lot of discussion. He's my pick for the day, but Mads Pedersen, hard to look by. They've done a lot of work. Have they tuckered out the pack, though? That's the point. Or indeed have done damage to themselves. As you said, Brian, it's a question of finding out how the engine works within a team as well, apart from anything else, what that cohesion is like. And you come to a day like this, and sometimes the task was basically to practice setting the pace for the entire day. And if the wind comes, it comes. Let's see. They may not be too disappointed, having put in a performance of great strength throughout the day, Little Trek. But I think Mads Pedersen is definitely going to be there towards the end. Has he done too much work? We'll find out. X getting lively, Brian?
Yeah, they're just kind of hovering midway. Just looking at, we were kind of speculating just a moment ago. EF Education Easy Post coming up to kind of help Lido Trek at the front, and Kern Farmer, they're a second division team.
Yep.
They don't really need to ride because, I think there's a little bit more pressure on some of the kind of World Tour teams to do the riding, so they don't have to ride. I know why they're riding, because they had a good result in Marseille, but they really do not. It's only 1 minute. This, the World Tour teams have got this in control, and it's sometimes like that. You just ride on the front because you've got confidence in your man, and give him a little bit more confidence. That's what I was talking about, being a little bit kind of more old school. That's what teams do. They just come up and ride because fifth at the weekend there in the Grand Prix Marseille put a little bit of pressure on them, and you start to feel as if you don't want to let your team down if you're riding on the front. That's kind of old school. Sometimes you have to think a little bit newer, and you don't have to save your troops, because the biggest part of this, and also if you're riding at the front, you've got riders riding at the front, it allows your riders to ride near the front in the line as well. But I don't think this peloton is quite big enough to kind of worry too much about that. It's more about saving your energies and making sure that your favoured rider has got a good position going on to this final kilometre.
Bessèges just being guided here, as you've just seen, by Julien Bernal, who's on the front again. Bessèges, good time trialist, and has got some dibs on the title overall if he stays in touch, but he's gone sacrificial lamb time, and he hits the front right now. And this is for Alberto Bettiol. So Brian and my picks are actually sharing the duties. Their teammates are sharing the duties up front. The vines have been trimmed, so a little bit of the red stuff. Was it rosé? Possibly rosé down here, which Brian just doesn't touch. If it's not red, it's you might as well go to bed. He's not interested. That's the way of it, Brian.
Yeah, 100%.
Rich and fruity. That's Brian all over. 16.7 kilometres to go. We've only got 56 seconds to our breakaway. Kern Farmer rolling the dice on behalf of my cheeky side bet, which is Paul Miguel today. Will we be saying it's Paul Miguel, or will we go, no, Paul Miguel? One or the other. It will be by the end. I've got a titter there. That's
just
about
thinking of sand.
Some newly laid tarmac here. They've done the job. They haven't put in the centre lines just yet. And had they drawn one, as you can see, there's just a slight whiff of a breeze about us today, just the way the riders are setting themselves up. So yeah, team order very much though, Brian, in colour order for this approach, and we'll be there in 16.1 kilometres. It's like we're going to scream into it and suddenly switch to slow motion, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. It's I think for the last 4 or 5 kilometres we're starting to see a difference in the peloton. I think it was just after that kind of natural stop that they had about 30 odd kilometres out. Now it's going to focus, and like you say, just slight wind from the right hand side, but colour order of the day, just making sure that they manage to get through this, as we often see in this part of the world, this road furniture.
Through Potelier, and indeed their peach trees. Don't help yourself. Buy from the side of the roads. They're always extremely cheap. Some plum trees as well in this part of the world. Nonetheless, back to this, and a little bit of an exchange. They're sharing duties nicely. Groupama looking absolutely menacing, I must say, Brian. And Kevin Genietz for today, or Remy Roja. You're thinking maybe not Genietz, but Roja has a dig. What do you think?
I'm thinking Pasher, but we will see. Definitely confident about taking the win here.
Let's see. It'll be lovely. Pasher with his beard, 6 in Marseille, and yeah, another one of Brian's summer houses, just ebbing in our consciousness as we speak. We have plenty of cards to play, Groupama, I must say, and it's a who's feeling good on the day. When does that get declared, Brian? Long before now, I imagine.
Yeah, I think it's decided before the race. It has to be at this level. You can't be undecided when you come into the finale like now. You already have a plan of action. Sometimes when you have too many plans, that it goes out the window. So I think plan A is making sure that they're looking after their selected man, and whoever that is. We've just given you 2 or 3 riders that we think, but only the teams know who they are 100% backing.
Well, they plough the fields and scatter, and it will be very thin on the ground by the time we start our ramps. Let's talk about it, because we'll be there shortly. Lovely part of the world, this, by the way, and just watch out for little handwritten signs which say Gîte and an arrow. They're worth checking out, that sort of place there. Absolutely glorious, and you'll be well received and well catered for, I can tell you. So yeah, nice little casserole, basket of bread, flag and away, that kind of thing. You can have that. So we have 900 metres. Let's talk about it, shall we? The first part of it, first 150 metres or so, is only 3.2 kilometres. It's the very under the Flamme Rouge is where we start to worry. And then the last 700 metres are absolutely punishing. It'll almost come to a stop with 13% gradients to be dealt with. It eases a little bit, but not much towards the finish, and then there's a little step that will go over to the finish line itself, just to stop riders actually wobbling to a stop before the finish line, so and having to have helpers across. You get the idea. 13.5 kilometres then from home, and the gap is 3/4 of a minute, but if it pans up here and you start your stopwatch on anything significant at the side of the road, you're going to find that that gap is a modest one. Actually, not quite as modest as I thought, but there you go. Team cars still in the gap. Oh no, they're not. There they are. I misread the peloton as a bus. We're nearly there. So, no changes in the demeanour of those out front. It's the same names that have been beguiling us for such a long time. Vacalin is coming up with Arkea B&B. They are just monstering in the red, nearly all red on the left-hand side of your screen. Still keep a quiet day, but up towards the front. Milan Menton maybe for Lotto Destiny. In fact, I wish I'd talked more about him, to be honest, in the approach now I think about it. 2 years ago, he was up there. He got himself in the top 10. He was finished 8th on this stage a couple of years ago. Is he the same? He did. In fact, we did talk about it at the beginning of the day, because he was the one that crashed in Marseille. If he sustained that okay, I think he'll very much be a part of proceedings today, will Milan Menton. So let's see. It's hard to sort of establish a hierarchy within a team that has such a lot. They've got good classification riders with Bocamos and Brent Van Moor, Alex Sigert as well, but Milan Menton is their man, and they mean business as well. They just moved up their if you're talking in block order of teams, they're probably in number 4, P4 at the moment as a team, if that makes sense. 40 seconds of the breakaway. You'll see the red jerseys. In fact, Alps and De Koenig are starting to come up. This will be for Axel Laurence. That's a possibility as well, Brian.
Yeah, they've got a couple. You know, the Timo Kielich, good finisher as well. Again, I'll say this: a lot of question marks over, you know, what sort of form, who they're going to go for. They'll know, but Laurence definitely a top rider and very capable. And you know, the fact that he's in this team as in racing here in France, that'll be a kind of extra motivation.
I did mark him up, but that was with a headwind, and it's not here, Brian, so I think Axel Laurence might have thrived in that scenario.
I think he'd be fine. I don't think I'm not too worried about the wind conditions. I think definitely it'll suit him, and you know, hopefully we will see him, you know, fight it out with some of the others we've been mentioning already today.
Right, so watch Axel Laurence. They clearly believe they're up to the 4. This is that problem time as well, isn't it, where the DSs are saying get to the front, get to the front. They're all saying the same thing. There's not enough room in the front, Brian, which is why the approach pace has to be really quite accelerative, which we're seeing now. You want to be able to slingshot your best hope up the road for the last 900 metres, and then it comes down to, well, the best man for the job. You do get, Patterson's got Alex Kirsch, who's possibly going to lead him onto this climb, I'd have thought.
There's a few riders, they've got their job to do. Yeah. You just mentioned Axel Laurence. I think huge win in the World Championships last year in the under-23s. But you know, we know what he's capable of doing, fighting it out for the best. But I think definitely Mats Pedersen has set himself up as the another kind of former world road champion, is the man to beat today. And can he be beaten? Of course he can, but it's going to take a real hard effort, because you're talking about this last kilometre, how steep it is. Everybody knows this. Everybody's trying to get prepared for, you know, that kind of lung-busting effort you're going to have to make at this finish.
Conti there, just in a line of riders that to the left of Uno X in their scarlet and amber gold. Yeah, there's a lot
away from blood and custard.
Well, it's not so much custard. That's the problem. There was more custard.
Or lipstick and custard, was it?
It was lipstick and custard at first, yeah. Yeah, but then as they got, they wanted something a bit more. I think they deserved something a bit more gutsy, which is why we went to blood and custard. It sounded more fortuitous.
And so, what have you gone for now?
I'll stick with blood and custard for the time being, but there's not enough custard for my liking. Anyway, back to this. 11 kilometres to go, 26 seconds. It says it's a bit longer than that, the gap, I must admit, but hey, it's not for me to say. Well, it is actually a paid commentator, but anyway. 10.7 kilometres from home, another twist and turn. This is heading back towards the southwest, and indeed we'll be rejoindering the road, or at least, I guess, disengaging from the loop, only for the final climb. So you've seen this terrain before, you won't be seeing it again. And it will be a unique finale. Just look at how motivated Arkea B&B are, Brian. The boys in red making a nuisance of themselves.
Yeah, they're in colour order. They haven't been riding on. I just don't like these bollards and things. And throughout the day, it's
that they were being guided into an active traffic lane, to be honest. But anyway.
Yeah, we've seen very little evidence. I know it's very hard for race organisers, but we've seen very little evidence of these being marked or even highlighted at all. So most of it is the onus of the riders. But yeah, we're soon. It's one of these things that no matter where you are in the world, you get used to different. Oh, there we go.
Oh, yeah, that's that traffic. It's that.
You just hit the curb.
Yeah, no, and more as well. Lots of Destiny also involved, and quite a few teams who are further back. Oh, and this is bad news for EF Education Easy Post. They're all tangled up in this, and Bettiol's down there as well. That is a nightmare for them. They're on the blower, trying to untangle their machines from teammates and rivals, and this is never a good look, Brian, I'm afraid. This is not a happy hunting ground, and set off doing a Froome jog here by the looks of things, Bettiol. My goodness, that was a bad one. Let's have a look.
Just a lean on. Yep. Was it Van Rysel? But it's the reaction afterwards. Yep. One of the Nice riders was in the inside there, and he just got leant on a little bit. Possibly could have jumped onto it. Maybe it was a kind of high curve, very difficult to see, but when he got leant on, just hit the curb, fell over. But the reaction behind meant that more riders kind of hit the deck, and that's quite normal when that happens. And the days off when you've got disc brakes that you stop very, very quickly. So yeah, it just happened at a kind of pinch point there, unfortunately for that rider from Nice, I think it was. Hit the curb, came down, and caused a split in the group there.
Well, another roundabout to be taken. I'll give you the gap to our breakaway in a few moments' time. They've stripped out the clock because it was inaccurate, and they've got a margin of 14 seconds as it stands. 8.5 kilometres to go, so they're all bar caught, but that is a very thin on the ground looking peloton. There's no reason for them to wait up because the pace has been instilled from very early on. Unfortunately for EF Education Easy Post, they're up there as part of the pace setting, and their team has been cast asunder. Enough time to get back in, but it's the energy they've got to expel, Brian, in order to get to that position that's the problem, with only 8.1 kilometres to go.
Yeah, this is why you need your teammates. We're talking about it. A lot of effort is made by certain riders to bring their riders back in these incidents. They will sit back and wait and help bring back. But I was just about to say, in different parts of the world you get used to different things, but then that was a French rider it crashed there. But there's always a lot of kind of furniture in this part of the world, and that's where you have to kind of keep an eye on yourself, but you really have to rely on the other riders round about you. And it's just unfortunate that when you get leant on there, there's only two things that you can do: either get leant on and crash, or try and jump your whole bike onto the central reservation. And unfortunately, maybe a little bit panicked there, hit the central reservation, came down, but it's the reaction that happens with the riders behind.
Yeah, that reflected reaction. A little dab on the brakes, touch of wheels, and then it just magnifies and just gets worse and worse. I'm just waiting to see if Bettiol has actually made his way back into this pack just yet. There's still a couple of EF riders that are divorced from it, but just starting to regather. Don't be confused by Van Rijssel-Roubaix, by the way, who are also in the pink. Here comes Bettiol, I believe, centre line now, bottom of that group. And so there's this huge sort of milling together like a ball of sardines here, trapped in a harbour. They are just trying to find themselves, and still very, very close proximity. Pace has been knocked back just a little bit. They're not waiting for anyone, though, Brian. They have every right to push on. It's a question of reassembling if you can.
Oh, did you hear that again?
Yeah, again.
I think that was... By the sound of things, that sounded like, as we see, fist bumps as they're about to be caught, potentially. And you see EF Education also kind of looking behind, so maybe one of their riders. It sounded as if a wheel went into a derailleur there, but we can't see from these camera actions. So yeah, it's getting a little bit kind of risky in the peloton now. A lot kind of swaying left and right.
Bettiol's got back. It's been a hell of an effort to get here, Brian. That will have knocked him back. That's going to be an energy deficit for the finale, surely.
I think so, but I think some of his team are kind of drifting back, looking back, and potentially kind of helping him up. I would think that if he's the chosen rider today for the EF Education Easy Post, then he's had teammates kind of help him come up. If he wasn't awake before, which would suggest that, you know, why was he riding towards the back of the peloton? Indeed, there? Yeah. He'll definitely be awake now.
There's that Simon Carr is just sharing a few shoulders as well up towards the front. You mentioned the fact he's certainly somebody who's worth watching out for. I think they played that card just in case Bettiol didn't get back in, but he's there now. Total Energy is also just starting to light it up, 6.2 kilometres to go. They're going to take that turn, don't forget. It will be a left-hander onto the climb. And Total Energies, have been told, save his place, is out front. Matt Bergadeau as part of this. We've got Thomas Bonnet, Dujardin-Ferrand, Gachinard. They've got some options. I wouldn't have put them down as favourites at the beginning of the day, but Arkea really are turning themselves inside out here. A lot of double checking on the wrong side of the road. They've got to make it back in. Nice to see as well that Berkemos is here. Marlon Menton, good shout, I would say, for Lotto Destiny, and they're in a good place as well. Menton will like this. There's a lot of teams done a lot of work, and it could be cast asunder, Brian, because of what's happened.
Well, that's what we were talking about before. We've got a couple of teams here, Total Energies in the whites and the reds. We've got Arkea, B&B Hotels. Two teams that haven't really done too much work today, but now they have come up to the front at the right time. I was just mentioning about Cairn Farmer. They were coming up. Have they done a little bit, too much earlier on today? Potentially. This is the time to do it. Maybe not help out the chase before, but this is the time to do it. You can see that everybody's going from left to the right. There's central reservations, there's dangers. This is a full-out effort. 5 kilometres still to go. Wow. This is like a finish of a sprint stage, but I think a little bit more chaotic.
Marlon Menton's got teammates around him. He's got a line of 3, so he's essentially got a couple of lead-out men ahead of him, which is brilliant from the Aqua and Scarlet boys. More Aqua than Scarlet, you can see on the right-hand side of the road. Look how clean the approach has been for Uno X here. Magnus Kort, Holdgaard, Lagnersund, Rasmus Tiller, also very much as part of proceedings, and they're coming like a steam train right now. They're tagging onto the coattails as it stands of Axel Laurens's boys, Alpecin de Koenig. They've done a fantastic job as well. Here is Lotto Destiny with Marlon Menton absolutely steaming. There is Alpecin, and look at the blood and custard of the men from Uno X in a fantastic position here, and they actually look relaxed in the vanguard. Mads Pedersen is where he wants to be as well. You'll catch sight of him in a few moments time. A couple of lead-out men, including Tim de Klerk, who's trying to set a pace for them. 3.9 to go, and those have been caught out, I'm afraid, and just had been knocked back, include Valentin Ferrand, who you're looking at the moment. They've got Sandy Dujardin and Gachinard as fast men, but I'm afraid time has run out for them. Can't see Bettiol up towards the front. There's a trio of men in pink a little bit further down, but I believe Bettiol is going to make it through. 3.4 kilometres to go. It's another left-hander, Brian, before we take on our climb.
Yeah, we just come off a really fast main road. I looked at, there was a flag flying, and it looked as if it was a kind of tailwind. The speed they were going at over 60 kilometres an hour was incredible, but Yeah, they all wanted to get to the front. Still a lot of movement in this peloton, and I just noted that Little Trek had kind of sat back in that main road. Now they take the front with 3 kilometres to go, with Uno X coming up on the left-hand side. And
it's Tim de Klerk that's setting the pace for them, and Mads Pedersen. Uno X in a very, very good position as well. Magnus Cort, I would have thought today. Let's wait and see if he brings his moustache to the line and to bear. Bettiol's still here, but he's kind of trapped out of position at the moment, and he's got no teammates around him, I'm afraid, to help out in the endeavour at the very end. He's expending a lot of energy to get to this position. Stamping on the pedals, Tim de Klerk. The tractor is doing a fantastic job for Little Trek. Who else has got what it takes? And here come EF Education. They are back where they need to be. There's a lot of riders peeling off. It's hard to get settled at a moment like this, Brian, with only 2.2 to go.
Yeah, you can see that Christoph was moving up to kind of help a little bit, but it looks as if Tim de Klerk moved over on him. His job is done. Getting rather kind of dangerous now as everybody switches through this dangerous section, but Little Trek still in command at the front of the peloton. Who swing left. A lot of pink jerseys down towards the back, whether that's Van Rysel or EF Education.
It is Van Rysel. Oh, big crash on the corner. Hit the wall and hit it hard. Hope they're okay. 1.7 kilometres to go. Very few whistles and pennant men around here, I'm afraid. That's the nature of the beast, and that is a real shame for Alpecin. On the deck, unhappy. 1,600 metres to go, not quite at our big spike finale just yet. Gosh, it's been a thinning down exercise, this. Marlon Menton of Lot of Destiny is very much still there, but he's on his own. In fact, he's got teammates just coming up into the fold. That is Bettiol, I believe, but he's going to have to do it on his own, Brian. He's in about position 12 at the moment. A lot of effort for him.
Yeah, a lot of effort. We said, if you're about 20, 30th down, that's a big effort to make, and I think Bettiol's away back there, and Little Trek are going to keep this pace up. 1.3 to go. Unfortunately for Alpecin Deceuninck, it looks as if they lost 2 or 3 men in that crash there. 1 kilometre to go now, and it starts to get steeper all the way.
Yeah, I think it was Axel Arons actually who was sitting at the wall, which is a real shame. He would have been a big pick for today with the sort of form he's displaying. But Mads Pedersen is absolutely in the bird seat. They're not afraid to take it on, Brian. This has been a brave ride from them.
No, they've ridden all day, haven't they? But this is why you want to remain patient, because if you're trying to move up now when they're riding this fast, then you're going to pay for it in a few seconds' time when they hit the steepest part.
Here we go then. It's time to take account. Axel Arons is there. He's on wheel 4, so it was his teammates that got cast asunder. Axel Arons is going to follow hot on the heels here of Mads Pedersen. That's Bettiol trying to make it up in the pink there on the right-hand side, but can't find a way through just for now. And this is where the big grind comes in. If you've got anything left in the legs, this is where you've got to spend it, Brian. There's no place to hide at all. Yeah, you have. And I think it's that Geniet's up there in third place in Groupama. Veermoz, I think possibly. There's a lot of riders up here. Laurent's just kind of hanging on. He's going to lost Mads Pedersen's wheel, because I think that's the wheel to be on. Tom Squinch has also been desperate to try and impose himself today. Not quite getting there. Perry Pantre also perhaps with an option for today. Let's wait and see if indeed he's the man that's going to be released. Benoit Cosnefroy is there. Big grind coming up wide and round the outside. This is Rémi Roja, I believe, Brian. Yeah, it looks that way, but just see Mads Pedersen, he reacted to it very quickly there. So we're coming up now to 200 metres to go. Rochas on the front, Mads Pedersen is there, but so is Laurence in third place. He is. Axel Laurence is wresting the bike. He comes up onto the shoulders of Mads Pedersen. Axel Laurence looks the handiest of all of them at the moment. He's going for it. He's got the right line. Mads Pedersen's going to try and mug him at the very last, but can't quite get round him for the time being. Pedersen needs to dig deep right down, but he's not going to get there, I don't think. It's going to be the man from, oh no, not quite the finish line, beg your pardon. They're still coming, 50 metres to go, 25 now. Mads Pedersen still grinding, he's not going to quite get there. What a win! That was superb, considering the fact that his team had been smashed to pieces. Axel Arons brings it home, I believe. We'll get confirmation in a moment. But Mads Pedersen, so much work, Brian. He was a metre short. Yeah, he was. He was there, primed. But that extra incentive, the under-23 world champion comes in here and collapses just after the line.
That's what efforts you have to make to win, to beat Mads Pedersen, because he was the favourite. But Laurence comes up here, the Frenchman riding for Alpecin de Koning. What a win there in front of Mads Pedersen. And it was just a grind all the way to the line.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, this has been a brutal day, Brian, in more ways than one. And in the end, Axel Laurence had to do it on his own because his team were smashed to pieces on a very uncomfortable and unkind roundabout.
It's just, you're into oxygen dead. It's one of these situations like a kilometre effort on a track. You know, you sit there all day and it's just huge. At this point, I thought Mads Pedersen, he was coming, but Laurence just, he digs that little bit deeper, comes to the line, just, you know, one hand off the bars. He was absolutely in his hands and knees. Everybody was. When you look at everybody crossing the line there, incredible finish.
Vauquelin doing a good job actually keeping his hopes of the title alive for Arkea B&B. There is Mads Pedersen, whose team did much of the work today. Beautiful finish, beautiful part of the world this, but it has a sense of brutality about it as well. The beauty and the beast, and it was a couple of beastly corners, Brian, that will, I'm afraid, have had a cost for some riders here.
Yeah, we'll wait to see the final results. We know who the winner is, second place. Groupama looked as if they had a couple of riders up there as well. They rode well. Rochas went first, it was, but you know, all that effort from Lidl Trek, and at this moment, I thought with the finishing line in sight, Mads Pedersen was coming, but Laurence just held on. That was the difference. You know, the fact that Laurence went first meant that Mads Pedersen had to try and come round. You know, with the big legs that they've got at this stage, there was very little movement.
Axel Laurence, winner today, and in some fine style as well. There was a sense of bravery about that. Sense of brutality as well about the entire day. The way that Lidl Trek actually forced everyone into their wake. Wake-up call, then Axel Laurence takes it for beautifully for Alpecin de Koning. Mads Pedersen for Lidl Trek in second place. Kevin Vauquelin doing a job, living up to the billing with Arkea B&B Hotels. Geniet, Rojas, Brent Van Moor, Cosnefoy up there, Baudin, Perry-Pantre and Bocamors. That was a tough day, Brian, a very tough day.
It was. When you look at the result there, 11 seconds already to 10th place, you know, split by seconds, but a big win for the young Frenchman. This is the bit that was very dangerous. It was just like went straight on, hit the wall, unfortunately, but he was behind Laurence. His team were there to try and kind of support him, and you know, unfortunately, I just thought when he hit that wall there, luckily, I hope he's okay, and he was. A couple of riders coming off as well, but Lidl Trek rode all day, perfect positioning. It's just this man here just had that little bit extra to deliver the victory.
I enjoyed that, Brian. I know it was you know, there's plenty of worriment to be had as well. Tomorrow we head to Bessèges. It's the Queen's Day as far as climbing is concerned. An awful lot of it, Brian.
There is. You know, I'm looking forward to it. It's always this race. It's hotly contested. Very difficult finishes. You know, a hard day tomorrow. You know, another kind of lumpy day, uphill finish the next day. But you know, even until yesterday's stage was cancelled, that would have been very interesting. But just watch here, this effort here from Mads Pedersen as Rochas went. Laurence is there. I think it was like, is that Perry-Pantre in fourth place? Geniet's just coming up as well now. And just look where Vauquelin comes from. He's managing his effort, but when Laurence goes well, this is the second time that Mads Pedersen has had to react. The others, they're out of it. Vauquelin, just he's coming round them all. I think Vauquelin on this performance here today shown really well, but possibly one of the riders out of position, Carlton.
Yeah,
he comes from way back, but yeah, Laurence wins just in front of Pedersen, but what could have been for Vauquelin if he's in probably a better position there?
Rami Rojas as well, super brave to open that up. I think the road actually bending to the right there helped Laurence, and the fact that he had that advantage. Pedersen had to go the long way round if he was going to beat him. Tried and just did not make it. Given the same time, but the bonus seconds factored in. 10 bonus seconds to Axel Rolls, 6 for Pedersen. Wow, what a finale. We told you this race is something to mark in your diaries, and it most certainly is. Extra more so, I guess you might say, when the weather's with us as it has been today. Looks like we might get an interview. I'm hoping that we can actually hear it. Let's dial in. He just catch his breath. And you can hear Daniel Mongeau. Daniel Mongeau was supposed to have retired as a stadium announcer, Brian. He just keeps coming back.
He's probably doing more races than he did before.
I think so, yeah.
J'ai cru qu'il allait me passer, je crois que c'est Pedersen. Pedersen de... J'ai dit là, j'ai pas le droit.
There we are. He was just asking about Pedersen and just how tough it was, and referring to him as the king. But yeah, well, he is today. He's been crowned. Brilliant. So it looks like it was Louis Lenny who got the category 1, Brian, which is why he's up for the he's sitting here. He'll be collecting the King of the Mountains jersey.
Yep. He won at the top of the first category, and then he got the second climb as well, so maximum points for him. Didn't feature, of course, in the finish, where there was some more points, but yeah, job well done for Nice. They've been in the wars today as well, with a crash in the run-in, but that will be forgotten about when all the riders get to the finish and see the rider on the podium.
Well, 2 good-looking collarbones there. I don't think he's troubled them just yet, which is a good thing. Oh, and the wind finally picks up, but only after proceedings have finished. Well, let's have a look. We had ourselves a breakaway today as we look back at how this race panned out. But the climbs came thick and fast, and so did the bumps and bruises, I'm afraid. Such was the pursuit, Brian. It was a very tightly packed peloton, and we had constant issues along the way, not least some punctures, actually, that had to be dealt with.
Yeah, punctures, sprint for the King of the Mountains.
Well, just missing out there, I'm afraid, as it turned out, was Max Juliard. We thought he'd got it, but it was Jean-Louis Lenny who took the category 1. Pushed on as well, almost to punish Max Juliard for his precociousness in trying to deny points to Lenny. Oh, we know who got the King of the Mountains. We've also got the Duke of the Ditches as well today. We've troubled a few of them. The roundabouts as well, notwithstanding. They were claiming some prisoners. I think this was all down as well, Brian. There was nothing wrong with the course, particularly. There was a bit of street furniture to be dealt with, but they're all made aware of it. It was the sheer pace of the day, and that was reflected here. Dab of the brakes, and you can see how tightly packed they were, and it had a big cost, not least to Bettiol.
It did. I would question. I think the finish was fine, but I would question that kind of running towards the finish. I think it was a little bit too much road furniture. If I was kind of looking at it, made it very exciting, but I just think that part from 1.5 to 1 kilometre to go, that part was, I think, a little bit dangerous.
Bettiol expended a lot of energy trying to get back, and that was missing from him at the end. Premier Rojas lit it up very, very early for Groupama Francis de Jeux. In hot pursuit was Mads Pedersen, whose team had done most of the work on the day. And unfortunately, that meant that it was open to others to come and take a bite at the apple. And the man who took the biggest bite of all, Axel Laurence, he went for it. Pedersen forced to respond yet again. He dealt with Rojas, and now he had this man to deal with. And it was just an ass too far. When the road just bent towards the right, that meant that Pedersen had to go the long way round and was just shy of what was required at the very, very last when we came to the final step. The man who took that step forward and the bonus seconds was Axel Laurence. Mads Pedersen coming home in second place. He'll be back and ready to get busy in the run to Bessèges tomorrow. And in fact, there was a headwind just at the final turn once it was revealed to us, but I don't think that really counted against anybody particularly today. Well, what a great day of racing. Opening up one day late, albeit, Brian, here, the Étoile Bessèges, worth waiting for.
Yeah, good finish. I think Mads Pedersen will be thinking, second to a Frenchman again in this climb. Beaten by Kokar in 2022, now the reigning under-23 world champion, beating the former road champion Mads Pedersen. And you know, it's okay winning, but winning in front of Mads Pedersen, the favourite today, Axel Orongs, you know, his head will be held high. Whether he goes on to win this race, this stage, I think for me, he's really given him some real credibility.
Me too.
Le massage était bon.
And the massage is good. I think it was a massage, not a massage, but you just never know.
Du positionnement au pied. Donc l'équipe m'a passé en parfaite condition. Et ensuite, voilà, après j'avais...
Well, I got my position right. I'm in perfect condition, he said, for this climb.
Et au final, bon, du coup, au 500 à peu près, ça allait. J'ai pu...
I've got a mixed line here. I've got the announcer in my head as well. It's difficult to hear. Just off mic there, Brian, but clearly pleased with the way it went.
Well, I don't think he'll be disappointed.
No. Exactly. I had the position. He says he's got the form as well. So that was clear today. This grind for home, I honestly thought Mads Pedersen was going to come round him at this point, and it was only with about 5 minutes to go that finally he'd had enough.